Hey guys, welcome to our latest Site Savvy podcast. It's been a minute. We haven't had one of these in a while. In the meantime, I've been learning a lot more about SEO, and I actually met Kirsten off of TikTok. So this is Kirsten Hall. She's an SEO consultant. We started chatting and I realized, oh my gosh, like I have so many clients that need your services. I went through a little bit of training with her and I was like, you know what? This is great, but I think I'm going to leave it up to the expert. So she's been doing this for about a decade now. And I think officially with your business for about 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Today we're going to kind of talk about what the updates that Google is going through and how it's constantly changing. It's really something that you just want to be on top of. So Kirsten's going to dig into that. And just some general SEO questions and things to go over too if you have ever thought about that with your website. So thanks, Kirsten.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Leah. I'm super excited to be on with you with your podcast right now. I know you mentioned it's been a smidgen, but it's always great to get back out there and talk about something that's, really exciting people, really exciting business owners now, and they want to kind of grasp exactly what's going on in the digital world, in the Googlescape. So let's go over some cool things that have happened in Google, maybe some not so cool things as well, and how business owners can tackle it, what they can do to remain relevant online.
Good. Cool. Well, let's get into it.
So today we're going to discuss a variety of Google updates that have happened over this past summer in 2024. And then additionally, we're going to go over some kind of cool ways to utilize scripts to create content for your website. But we're also going to discuss how AI-generated content is not necessarily the full path forward. There's always going to need to be human intervention so that your website can rank well. Yeah. And do forgive me, I'm always going to be looking at my computer. My camera's all the way up there. So
I think this is really good for like our clients to know, mine and yours, because Google is like even month to month is changing. So I think this is going to be really good for really anyone to know. Like if you have any presence online, you being on top of it and sharing this with people's. I think it's if anything, just good to be educated about. And then if clients do want more help with SEO services or whatever, we know where to point them to. So
right. So there are several like types of updates, and there are micro updates that Google has even on the daily. So one of the things that I am constantly trying to keep track of is the Google Spam update and the core update that they have. Over the last year, they have been pushing updates just about every single month. On top of that, their ranking algorithm has like 1 to 200 roughly, if I remember correctly, micro updates per day, based on machine learning and what that code believes to be a better way to serve their target audiences based on all of the unique searches that happen across Google each day. So Google had
really quick, what would be your like really short elevator pitch to someone that doesn't quite know that much about search engine optimization, but they know they need it, but that's about it. So like, because there's been some really big changes lately, right? Like there was that leak that happened. So like, why should someone care about listening to you right now?
So businesses should care about listening to me right now because there is no way to cheat around the algorithm, no matter how much AI is pushed. You need to remain unique so that your potential clients can find you on the web. And if you are not actively working towards either a DIY approach or working with someone to help you understand the do's and don'ts of Google, your website could be penalized for a variety of reasons, or maybe even one reason, and you're searching through the web trying to figure out why your traffic could have gone from, say, like, 1, 2, 300 clicks per day. I'm speaking in the sense of a local business, down
Mm-hmm.
to like 0 to 10. Um, and an example of that is a client last year who had just opened up their practice that I had been working on. They got like a bunch of 1-star reviews between April and I believe September or October. And
Oh,
they got maybe like 20-ish 5-star reviews. They were rocking and rolling. They loved everything. And then suddenly they had one client that they made extremely upset, and that client left a 1-star review. Now, rather than consulting with the marketing experts, they went ahead and said, like, hey, all friends, all family, we got a 1-star review. Like, we need your help. Can you please help us bury this 1-star review with a bunch of 5-star reviews? So in a matter of 24 hours, they had gotten about 17 5-star reviews from their friends and family. And like half of them didn't even have any context to it. It was just like, here's a 5 stars. We're not
right.
entering in any information, because like they weren't actually a client. They were a friend or a
Mm-hmm.
family member.
Yeah.
So they thought things were fine. And then a month later, Google had a review update, which is another type of update that they have, maybe once or twice a year, or like every other year. It might be more frequent
Mm-hmm.
now that AI is involved. But their traffic was, it was like going up and to the right. I'll go in the reverse. And then that review update happened and they crashed, and
Mm.
that affected their website traffic for 5 months. It took our experts
Wow.
5 months to make sure that they were getting back on like local mass packs, that Google was realizing that they actually provide valuable content. So um,
Mm.
there's a lot of things that business owners do to try to save face, that these
Mm-hmm.
algorithms like are aware of what you're doing. It's bots crawling, like millions of
Mm-hmm.
bots that could be possibly like crawling your website like every other day, and they find one thing that's wrong and they're like, you're tanked, don't talk to us.
Well, I've had clients do that, and I'm like, oh, Google's probably gonna think that's suspicious, and they're like, well, nothing happened. I'm like, this time, like,
Yeah, this time
right?
you have
If
to
you're
worry
lucky.
about what's going to happen in like 6 months or a year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
um so
That's
because of
good to
that,
know, though.
yes. And it's scary because, like when you're doing well, and I mean, like, I can empathize when you're doing well and then like you get one bad thing happen, like one-star review. You have to
Right.
you feel like you have to do something about it immediately, and like the quickest and easiest thing to do is ask friends and family for help, but
Mm-hmm.
Google's too
But
smart for that
that's
now.
that's just reality. If I'm looking up a business and I see only 5 stars, I'm actually suspicious. So like people just need, like you can't please everyone, right? And
Yeah,
that is going to reflect in Google reviews, Facebook reviews, whatever. So I don't
yeah,
know. I don't take those things too seriously unless like it's really affecting your whole entire rating and you have multiple bad ones. Maybe you should be reflecting on how you run your business. Um, but yeah, if you get a couple, it's not a big deal. Let's move on.
yeah.
Anyway.
So, the recent spam policy update that happened at the end of June covers a
Mhm.
variety of different things that could affect your website. Like, I'm just going to scroll through, obviously, very
And
quickly.
where
Um,
is this? We'll search Central.
yeah, Google Search Central on developers.google. This entire link right here. If you do an article about this after, I can send this to you.
Mhm.
Um, So I'm not going to say I'm an expert in every single one of these things, but there are a couple that I do want to cover. Doorway pages are pages that are essentially duplicates of each other with very minor pages. Um, and this was considered like maybe not a best practice, but a good practice a long time ago, because local businesses would, be like, hey, I'm in Colorado Springs, but I also want to be found in like Fountain or Manitou or Monument. But they don't have physical locations in these towns. So what they'll do is create a location page for like Colorado Springs, and then they'll duplicate it for Monument, and then they would just change everything in the content that targeted Colorado Springs and would change it to Monument. And, like 3, 5, 10-ish years ago, especially 10-ish years ago, the algorithm wasn't strong enough to really like pick up on those, but it's much stronger now. So it can see that duplicate content, and the algorithm and the bots are understanding it as like not unique, not valuable content for any user. And it's automatically going in and for the most part, no indexing these. And by no indexing, I mean the crawler crawls the site and it's pretty intuitive to understanding like where you're actually located based on like your Google local maps packs address. And then it'll go in and be like, hey, like we understand that they have a location in Colorado Springs, but they don't have one in Monument. And chances are, even if it doesn't get no indexed immediately after that page is launched, it's likely going to get no index down the road because it just sees it as like, hey, you literally copied this content from one page to the next and just changed the town name. So crawlers are savvy of that, and they're only going to get savvier as time moves forward. There's aspects of hacked content. I'd actually just like to read this for a second. Site without permission due to a vulnerability in a site security. I would say this is similar to more like high-level technical SEO or developer, but there are aspects of your website where if it's not secure and people can hack it through like plugins or backdoors from other developers, if there's like outsourcing, um, they can essentially like get back into your site and kind of put like hidden stuff in there that will affect how people gain an experience on your website. You always want to make sure that you're having a quality user experience. Hidden text and links. Keyword stuffing is something that is pretty, or like was pretty prevalent in the past. Essentially, people would jam keywords into their content, like in a group or unnaturally or out of context. And they would do this just so that they could try to rank for that keyword better. So if I look up keyword stuffing example, I just want to try to find a little picture. So maybe not necessarily that one. Here we go. This is a good example. Can I open this image in a new tab? Perfect. So let's say you're trying to sell fire pits. You want to rank for fire pits. Looks like this example is from 2012. So this is kind of like perfect timing and example of how keyword stuffing happened over a decade ago. It was just kind of a way to trick the algorithm into ranking for the content in the search queries that you wanted to rank for. But over time, Google became more aware of this problem and they decided, hey, like this keyword stuffing does not sound natural. It's really annoying for the user. In fact, there's a fire pit table keyword right here. They're really just trying to maximize that, and that's no longer a best practice. And it hasn't been for a very long time. So if I go back, link spam, let me see, Google users, any links, manipulate rankings in Google. This could be considered possibly backlinks in a way, and a backlink is when you pay a backlink building agency to outsource a white hat link for your website in hopes that it can trick Google into thinking that your website is valuable because it has this anchor text. There's an example here, like if you sell wedding rings, you might try to stuff a bunch of keywords into like a low quality blog without even knowing it, because oftentimes these backlink building agencies don't always have the best way to gain white hat backlinks. There are some that are better than others, but the reality is the best bang for your buck is going to be having like such high quality and relevant and helpful content that people naturally want to link to your content when they're trying to reference a piece of information. Let's see, machine generated traffic, misleading functionality, it's more developer level, scraped content. Oh, actually, scaled content abuse. I think this is really prevalent now because business owners want to do anything and everything they can to use generative AI tools to essentially generate as many pages on their website without adding value for users. And this was seen frequently towards the end of not even just the end, the majority of 2023. I would have to find that article again, but there was a website that was massively manipulating AI to create scaled content. So they were probably pushing like 300 pieces of content on their website per day, and they were gaining so much traffic so quickly because the Google algorithm, a year ago was not designed to really keep up with that level of content like manipulation and generation and like understanding whether or not like that content was helpful. So they had released a core update. I believe it was in I think it was like late July or August last year. And then they released another one in March to try to help with, kind of forcing people to go back to creating like helpful content for the user. And the one business that had been generating 300 roughly pieces of content per day for months, they saw their traffic go up and to the right pretty significantly, and then they had a 90% drop in traffic. I believe once that March core update had implemented, because it strengthened the previous content and core update, and it really it was really detrimental for a lot of businesses who were like, yes, we're gonna scale content forever, we're just gonna abuse Google and the crawlers, and everyone's gonna find our site, and we're gonna make all these sales. And like they did, like some of these people were making like 20, 30, $40,000 a month with this scaled content abuse, and they weren't like paying. They really weren't paying much because it was just like AI, it was scripts, it was generated, it was automatically uploading to the website. So, must have been great to hang out in like Cancun for a couple months while they were trying to beat down Google. And then they realized at the end of it, that traffic was like gone. Now they have this massive website of useless content that they're going to have to go back and either no index or completely delete and do a 301 redirect to try to make up for that. And there were some websites that were so bad that they had just been essentially shut down by Google as a whole. Those were
Wow.
more so e-commerce related websites, which makes sense because most
Yeah.
of those businesses want to try to like maximize that as much as possible to gain those sales, especially if they're selling like tech products like laptops, cameras, etc. But you know, to be doing so well so quickly and then everything comes crashing down must have been
Right.
pretty detrimental for them to deal with. So I bet they made all this money and then were like, huh, well, now I have to spend all of that money to fix my problem.
Um, so people that are working with, maybe they're working with an SEO person right now. What would you recommend that they like ask their person to like look into if they haven't already
I
been
get,
aware of what's going on?
right. I would say it really depends on like the size of the website and how long the website domain has been live. Um, so
Mm,
let's say you're a local business and your website is like 20 plus years old and you have lots of old content on it. I would ask your SEO to do an audit of all that old content and decide whether or not, it has no use and should be 301 redirected and like no indexed, or completely updated possibly. So let's say, let's say, for example, there are certain policies related to your business that you wrote about in 2005 that were relevant back then. And now that it's 2024, there are like policies that have been updated over time, that, new rules, new policies, like those needs to be updated. So like maybe the keyword back in 2005 was super relevant to rank for. Like if somebody was writing about Google policies in 2005 and they wanted to update to 2024 standards, that would be a really good piece of content to update, because it will still have that like old keyword relevance from 2005, but the
Mm-hmm.
metadata behind it that gets updated for 2024, Google crawlers can be like, wow, like this page was written like almost 20 years ago, and you took the time and energy to update it to what the standards are now. So that, like, how long it's been live also adds a bit to the page authority, like that singular page's authority. That makes it stronger when you put in that update. Um, and then if it were like a newer local business on the map, I would say, make sure the keywords that you're trying to target right now, say like for your services or your blogs, are relevant to what you think people might be searching for your business right now. And there are tools that can help you understand a little bit of what people are searching for. I personally use SEMrush for keyword research, but there are ones similar, such as Ahrefs, where you can look up a certain keyword, say like, let me think. I used to do a lot of medical marketing. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's say you're a medical spa and you look up Botox because you want to see what people are searching for Botox. You can see like service and like transactional related keywords, and then you could see question related keywords. And what I like to do is I like to, for newer websites, focus on like the top possible like question related queries that people have for the service. Because whenever a local business starts their website, they're essentially, like they start with the service pages, but
Mm-hmm.
those are the hardest ones to rank for, especially when you have competitors who have been like long-standing local in
Right.
the area.
Yeah.
So we can boost the service pages relevance by adding like Botox related blog questions, um, like what is Botox and how does it work? Is Botox painful? Should I choose like um, even Botox for like a lip flip, or choose lip filler? And then you take those blogs, and when there's like a keyword in that blog that says like Botox, you want to anchor link it, put in a hyperlink that leads to that service page. So the more blogs you have that are linked, have like, it only needs one link in
Right.
that blog to the service page. Over time, it's going to start building that relevance for that service page, because the transparency that you provide in these blogs are going to tell crawlers like, hey, like, this is an aspect of what our website is about. Overall, we're a medical spa. Like, we want to help people understand like what our services do, how they help, pros and cons, costs.
I have a question
Yes.
that this has come up with some of my clients. Um, Sometimes we get business owners that we work with, and what we'll want to have posts or pages that are like, "What is blank?" And it's the service that they provide. And sometimes they're like, "Well, if clients are already on our website looking at what we do, they already know what that service is, so we don't need to say that." Like they get very caught up in um, thinking things are unnecessary when they're not. Or like, oh, 1,500 words, that's too much. I don't want to turn people away, if they do get on this page and it's just so much information. So like How do you kind of explain like you are really catering to the search engines, which in then return does cater to people because people aren't going to, people don't read a website from top to bottom. They skim. They're looking for an answer to their question, and they're not normally going to read from top to bottom. But like, I don't know, how would you kind of respond to like the catering to search engines is more important than thinking like just someone's going to read it top to bottom and just catering to like people, I guess.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I use one of your clients as an example?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So if I go to Yakima Restoration,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I have to go, is it slash blog or slash news?
So yeah, Baxter Construction for Yakima. Go to the menu in the footer. Oh yeah,
Uh, I, I always do it the difficult way, I think, just messing around with the URL.
there.
I'm always so deep in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I know that we had previously like gone over some of these like H1 titles as the technical term. Most business owners will just look at this as a title, and then there are
Well,
also title.
maybe do we want
Yeah,
to look at like a services page?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. We can look at a services
let's
page.
do water damage. That's the main one that they're pushing.
Right. So we had gone over a couple things about their SEO in the past. I'm kind of drawing a blank originally on what the title tag was, but I do believe that it was missing in Yakima. So I think it was like maybe water damage restoration and Baxter restoration, or maybe even Baxter
Baxter
construction.
Construction. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's their official business name, but they're trying to yeah, target for restoration services. So that
right.
there is some conflict there. Yes.
Yeah, it's and I don't want people to think like SEO, like always has to serve the crawlers and like has to be 100% literal and everything has to be professional because that's not always the case. There has to be like when it comes to SEO and like writing the service content or writing the blog content, there's an aspect of it that is literal, like Botox services um, in Yakima or like what do I do about like water damage restoration,
Mm-hmm.
like, for a blog as an example. There's multiple ways that the SEO can be served. Um, so if I just do like Botox, ooh, this might reveal my address a little bit, but we'll see. Um, oh,
Well,
looks
you've
like,
already said Colorado Springs.
yeah, that's true. Um, let me see. So if I do like Botox near me, obviously we're going to get the sponsored ads. And
Mm-hmm.
then Botox Cosmetics, like Colorado Springs, Crow's Feet, Botox Cosmetic, Purely Redefined. These two are actually outranking Yelp right now, but a lot of these could really fluctuate day by day. Like you might see Yelp at the top tomorrow.
Mm, right.
Like Groupon could go down. Purely Redefined could outrank Springs Aesthetics in as little as 2 days, for all we know. It's all depending on what the crawlers are, more or less, for a better explanation, feeling that day. um, and then it's also obviously like there's dependence on whether the content was updated or not, or changes in
Mm-hmm.
the algorithm on those like micro daily updates. There's just a lot of factors. So um, it was easy 5, 10, 15 years ago to rank number one on
Mm-hmm.
Google if you were trying, and then like staying there possibly for months, if not a full year, before somebody else tried to come in and was like, oh, I want to try this whole organic optimization. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
like up and down, left and right. It's kind of
Right.
difficult to like always predict and like stay at the top.
It's not a guaranteed thing like Google Ads. A lot of people think when they say SEO, they think they're talking about advertising.
Yeah,
So two very different things. Um,
it's
yeah.
very true. So the ads are sponsored. They always say
Hmm.
sponsored on top of them, and these are people that are paying to be at the very top. Um,
It's usually a lot of money. I mean, I guess depending on
yeah,
who all your competition is, but yeah, the more
yeah,
competition, the more expensive. Yeah,
of course. And like this top spot gets like essentially 70% of the clicks. Um,
nice.
there's still plenty of people that like scroll down to local maps packs and then like
Hmm.
might look at the top 3 or 4 organic. Um,
That's
but
what I
most of the clicks
do.
are
I think
happening
I've
between
always
here
done
and
that.
here.
Like even before I knew about SEO, I would scroll past the top ones because
Yeah,
I knew they were advertising, and I'm like, oh, like show me the real ones, right? And then I would go past Google Maps, and then that's where I would start my search. So
yes.
anyway.
Yeah. That's what I do when I'm doing my research because like my
Hmm.
goal is to get people ranking like in these top 3 spots to the best
Right.
of my ability.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be fluctuations. And then there are people that buy their way to the top. But like younger tech savvy demographics, understand what these sponsored ads are and they understand that
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a measure of success. Me
It's just
especially,
if you
like,
have the money or not.
yeah, it's literally
Yeah.
just like pay to get to the top, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every person who clicks on this is going to be a qualified lead. Um,
Hmm.
Unfortunately, like unless you're filtering out to make sure that you're getting like the leads that are in like the top like 10, 20, 40% income brackets, like you'll end up getting a lot of leads if you're just throwing money at Google and you don't know how to
Hmm.
filter that out. Because you'll be like, hey, like if you're a landscaper and you like buy at the top here, and they're like, hey, I need my yard done and I want grass and xeriscaping and this and that, and my budget is $2,000. And the landscaper's like, well, you're asking for like a $70,000
Hmm.
project.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just kind of it's important to understand that this is a really good area, obviously, to get leads when that proper like paid advertising optimization is put in. But
Hmm.
um, this is search engine
Yeah.
organic optimization down here,
And like
and
when you
even
do run
here.
out of that money, you're not at the top anymore. But when you do
Yeah,
that SEO, when you do that organic work, um, like you basically are going to stay there for at least a while. It
yeah,
without like consistent management. But of course, like people should, your website's a living, growing thing, and Google is constantly changing. Technology changes all the time, so you kind of want your website to be managed and making sure that you're staying at that rank. But ultimately, it's almost always cheaper than Google Ads.
yeah.
But it does take longer, right? Google
It
Ads
does.
is pretty quick, but a lot more expensive. Where SEO it's that slow growth, but once you get to that ranking, you're probably not going to move too far from it. Um, anyway.
Yeah, especially if you're like a super small, like just started
Hmm.
business in the local area
Right.
and you
That'll
try to
take a
get into
minute.
paid ads. I've worked with medical spas and surgeons and dentists and et cetera who have like multiple location practices and
Hmm.
they're spending like 20 to 30 grand per month. So when you come into
Wow.
Google and like you say like, oh, my monthly budget is like $500 or $1,000, it's like chances
It's
are
not worth
Google's
it.
gonna eat, yeah, Google's gonna eat that up, and then they're still gonna deliver your competitor above you.
Right.
Um, and people get crushed. It's
It'd be better to put that into just building out content on your site. Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Um, so sorry. I still I wanted the answer though to like maybe people that don't necessarily see the benefit of answering what might be silly questions to them, but on the website, like, what is blank, this service that I provide? Like, why is that so
right.
important? Because people that are going to be on my website already know the service. Um, like, what would you say to that?
So I would say that is top level funnel content.
So
Um,
let's do Botox. Like, Like if a medical place was like, oh, well, people already know what Botox is. We don't need to write out what is Botox on our website. Like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that if they fail to do that, then they're not going to build up the content relevance that makes their service pages stronger.
Mm.
So if they're just, like, look at us, we sell Botox, like, rank us, Google. Google's like, I don't care. Like, your competitors are writing about what is Botox. WebMD is writing about what is Botox.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland Clinic is writing about what is Botox. Like, why aren't
Why aren't
you?
you? Yeah.
Yeah, we
And
would.
people are searching it. You can literally type in Botox and it'll show you the most commonly asked questions. What is Botox is probably a most commonly asked question.
Yeah.
There
People
you
also
go.
ask, what does Botox actually do? What is Botox made of? And these are like really good,
Yeah.
questions that could be answered on a website as well. Like you don't necessarily have to
Mm-hmm.
spend $250 a month on SEMrush or similar products to do keyword research. You could just ask, you could just
Yeah.
type the keyword
Google
in.
tells you right there what you need
Yeah.
to be writing about. Yes.
And all of these could be like micro pieces of content that are like maybe like 1,000 to like 1,200 words potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Google doesn't really like it when there's a low word count to content. Um, there's like skyscraper level content, which is like a huge amount of content that was written about something. And then there's like ranch style content where like maybe there's shorter pieces,
Mm,
but
yeah.
they all kind of add up over time and build relevance to the service page.
Okay.
And both are extremely valuable. Um, but I actually just want to show something real quick because I just did like a skyscraper piece of content and I wanted to provide some context because like my website I had officially like it was launched back here roughly in
Mm-hmm.
May. But I did some updating. I did hire somebody to actually help me because it was just like a huge and massive project, and I still had
Mm-hmm.
clients of my own to serve. Um, so I was like, okay, let's launch it. The new design launched like roughly, I think it was like July 11th actually. And then I started adding content here. Like right about here, I added three pretty valuable pieces of content, and now the search engines are picking this up
Right.
immediately. And this will probably still take another 2 months to really bake out and like understand the value of it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go to my website and I just show you, like this is like these are all the pieces I have right now. These two blogs are around 3,500 words, and then this one is around 8,500 words. And I'm not going to
Oh my
sugarcoat it.
gosh.
This thing costed $2,300 to get created because even though I know how to
That's a
do these
lot though.
tasks, yeah, but you can see how that useful content is being picked up by crawlers and saying like, hey, things are happening on your website and they're happening
Right.
rapidly. Um, so I
So
expect,
they're like flies. They're like, what's going on? What's
yeah, they're
happening?
like, oh, this is interesting. Like you're a
Mm-hmm.
new site and you're not trying to scale content
Right.
using AI and creating crap.
Yeah,
Um,
like doesn't Google have they have their own AI to detect if there's other AI content because they don't want that. They want more like human created content and they can tell.
yes.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, do I want to sit down
That's a
myself and
lot.
write all of this, or do I just want to write a game plan and have somebody who writes for a living and
Right.
can help give me this like unique interesting voice because you've had to stop me a couple times and like kind of draw me back and be like, hey, let's answer the simple question, and I'm just like, I want to talk about like
The
servers
gears
and
and
AI
the
and how it
yeah,
all technically
the
works.
the
But
nuts and bolts of everything.
yeah, but
This
this
is
is,
good. Can you send me this link? Oh my gosh.
yeah, 100%. I'll
Dude,
I'll
it's
send this
so
to you
big
right after.
though. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've trained me and
Yes.
I know like a little bit. Um, so I always thought like 1,500, maybe 3,000 if we're getting wild of words for whether it's a page or post. This is 8,000. Like I thought that was a no-no. So what?
It is. I have actually learned recently that it's not necessarily a no-no as long as all of the content within it is unique and highly valuable. Um,
Okay. So
so
like link, like a ton of links, references, tips, resources, things like that.
yes, yeah, like
Okay.
if you're gonna create skyscraper content, like
Skyscraper.
tips, tips and like ultimate guide are a good place to start.
Okay.
I literally looked at what my competitors were writing, and a lot of
Yeah.
their content was like 7,000 to, in some cases, even 11,000 words. And I'm like, all right, if that's what it takes, I won't shy
Wow.
away. So it's certainly an investment. It's
See, I'm learning more by just being on this podcast with you. Maybe that was my secret this whole time. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just keep learning. That's so much. I was like, wow, 1,500. That's a lot. Okay, well,
yeah. So yeah,
to know.
also it's a
Yeah.
whole mess of things. And I want to over time I want to kind of break
Wow.
down some of the micro, like some of the bullet points in here.
Mm-hmm.
I could create that more ranch style content where maybe it's like 1,000 to 1,200 words, and then I
Mm-hmm.
can comfortably write it because I'm not sitting there trying to come up with
Mm-hmm.
8,500 words.
Right.
I can really get into the nitty gritty of like how all of these different things work over time.
I feel like you could just talk about SEO forever. Like there's so many layers to it, and I think truly what SEO is, like once I kind of went through your training, it's you're just learning how the internet works and how it's like all connected. Like that was the
Yes.
biggest thing I realized because I do social media marketing for people and podcasts, and it goes on YouTube and Spotify as well as a blog post on their website. So you're kind of connecting the website with their social media, and like when I understood SEO as well, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's all connected. Like
Yeah,
it's like a big spider web. So SEO
literally.
really is like when I have clients ask me about that, I'm like that's kind of like the short answer is like how far can you get on Google, right? Like how high can you get?
Yeah.
But it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
Um, so we might have to do these more. Um,
Oh,
but
absolutely. I
yeah.
could talk about it all day. And
How,
just following up on that spider web, it is really
yes.
like, you know, your small business website could start off as a small spider web that kind of like tries to entrap and capture leads,
Yeah.
bugs within
Yeah.
it. And then over time, it just gets bigger and bigger. And you're trying to like, just like how the funnel goes down in the spider web, you're trying to figure out ways to draw people to the center so that you can snatch them.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Just snatch them.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for
If
having me.
if people would like to use your services, like where would they go to do that?
Best place to go is my website, thehallconsulting.com. You can just kind of click on call or send me a little message.
Yeah, cool. All right, thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Bye.